Welcome back, everyone, to our last session in the Hold On for Hope NAMI New Hampshire Annual Conference. We appreciate all of your attendance and participation in all of our sessions. For this last session, we'd like to welcome Connor Haas, who will share his story. After feeling burnt out from his professional life and lacking the enjoyment of many things he once experienced, Connor decided it was time for a new challenge. As an avid outdoor enthusiast, he chose to move back to his home state of New Hampshire to chase the goal of hiking 48 of New Hampshire's 4,000-foot mountains in 84 days or less. Connor developed the 48 in 84 hiking project and teamed up with NAMI New Hampshire to raise awareness and donations for those struggling with mental health. So welcome, Connor, and thank you so much for joining us for the session today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, welcome, everybody. I really appreciate you joining us today. And I'm sorry that we couldn't be in person. I'd rather, much rather do it in person, but we got to work with what we got to work with, and and that's how it goes. So, just a little bit of background on me and kind of what this is all going to be about. You just heard kind of a short little bio there. So my name is Connor Haas. Obviously, I grew up in New Hampshire and lived here for 18 years. And then I moved off to Florida, went to school in Jacksonville, Florida. From there, I got my degree down there and became a professional pilot down in Jacksonville, Florida, and worked there for a few years as a flight instructor, and then went off and flew professionally for an airline and kind of came back from that, deciding it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, and decided to go chase some other things. And I was a manager at a flight school for a while. And so where this leads us to is kind of what drew me to doing this. So essentially what happened was it was probably late 2021, or excuse me, late 2020. I was there and I was kind of like the bio kind of mentioned, I'm kind of was feeling burnt out in my professional life and what I was going to do. And I've always kind of been a believer in the fact that if you aren't where you're supposed to be, you need to take steps to get to somewhere that you're supposed to be. You don't have to know the exact path. You don't have to know exactly what it is, but you need to take those steps to get to that point. So, I racked my brain, went back and forth on what I was going to do. And I had chased a professional goal for a really long time. And I decided it was kind of time to do something just a little bit different. And I kind of wanted to do a life project, more or less, for lack of a better term. And so I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. I was really stuck. And I remember at one point I was kind of perusing through probably at Amazon Prime Video or something like that, and I found this documentary called The Iron Cowboy. I was like, what the heck is this? So I opened it up, and essentially what I found was this documentary of this guy. His name's James Lawrence, and he did this challenge for himself called the 50-50-50, where he did 50 Ironman distance triathlons in 50 days in all 50 states. So overnight he would travel to a different state to do this. And for those of you that don't know what an Ironman triathlon is, it's a 2.6 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then a 26.2 or full marathon run at the end of it. And he did that for 50 days in a row. And I was sitting there and I was like, this is just incredible. I can't believe that somebody has the mental and physical strength and power to do this. And so that was kind of sitting in the back of my head. And I was like, I'd like to embark down a path of doing something like that, finding out where my limitations lie, and figuring out, what it is that I can do to just make a little bit of a difference in not only my lives, but other people's lives too. So, I sat on it for a little while, and I remember it was a Saturday morning. I sat up in bed and it just came to me. And, and again, I'm living in Jacksonville at the time, but it just came to me, and I was like, there's 48 mountains that are the 4,000 footers in New Hampshire. That's a local hiking challenge. And I said, you know what? I think I could set out to do them in a short period of time. And I think we could use the project, and we could develop this project to benefit something. And I wasn't quite sure what it was going to be yet. But I decided that that's what I was going to do. And so I started planning. I started taking these steps back in, it was probably September of 2020. And I remember the day that I decided, I called my mom out called her up and I said, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Right. And from there on, it just started. It started to snowball into how I was going to get this done, and it was really exciting to kind of think of it, but an absolutely monumental task to try to get done. And so as I moved on with the planning process, I decided, hey, I got to start saving some money, and I'm going to take a leap of faith here, and I'm going to leave my job and go hiking for 3 months. And then I was kind of searching for what I wanted to give back to, what I wanted to raise awareness for. So luckily, I've had friends and some family that have struggled with some mental health issues, and it's always kind of been a big topic for me as well that I've wanted to really explore, and I think it's an important topic for us to talk about. So as I went through and was looking for that, I had a really good friend, Mary, who was integral in this project as well, who helped kind of get me in touch with the right people. And she said, hey, what about NAMI New Hampshire? So got in touch with the right people at NAMI New Hampshire, the team over there, which was awesome. And we started planning it. And so started going through the steps. And so, this first picture here is kind of my logo, excuse me, and the 4,000 footers passport, which is a really cool way to track everything. And that's a picture of me on my last hike, just kind of for the introduction there. But so as I started, thinking about what I was going to do, I realized, hey, okay, well, I'm going to move back to New Hampshire, and this may be temporary, right? I don't know that I'm going to stay here. And so what I decided to do was just kind of crazy thing, the van life movement that's been going around. So I was able to, let's see.
Connor,
yep.
I apologize, but you didn't share your slides yet. Would you share
okay.
the slides so people can see what you're talking about?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Alrighty, there. Is that better?
Much better. Thank you.
Cool. Sorry about that. Anyways, yeah. So this is the first couple pictures here that I was talking about. It's me on the last hike. But as we're moving forward here, so this next slide is this is my van. This was an integral part, and I figured I'd give it a shout out in this presentation here. So I searched high and low because I figured out that I was going to need to stay near the mountains. So what I did is I found this van, and with the help of some family, actually found the van in Vermont. So I flew up from Jacksonville, Florida, grabbed this van, had bought it, and then drove it back to Jacksonville and converted it into a van that I was gonna stay in for 4 or 5 days a week while I was hiking. And once this happened, this van thing, and one of the reasons I wanted to mention it was because this is when it started to become real for me, which was really, really cool. And it was kind of that, holy crap, I'm doing it, right? And it was an awesome thing. It worked out and super well. So anyways, it's kind of the introduction to the project and where it all started. And you kind of want to move into pulling some of the lessons that I think, things that we can take away from what I learned in the mountains and stuff that I think really, sometimes it sounds cliche that the mountains teach you a lot about life. And I think it's actually really true. I've kind of changed a lot from it, which is awesome. And so, we'll kind of move through that. So this first picture here is probably one of my favorite views in the White Mountains. If you look on the left-hand side of your screen, that's Mount Lafayette. And that's where I finished. That's where I finished the 48. And the reason why I wanted to start with this one and a picture of the last hike that I did was because of exactly what you read on the screen there. Taking the first step, it's the hardest one. It truly was. To decide to do that, to come up with this project and to do what I did with this challenge, the first step was truly deciding to do it and then getting in touch with the right people and taking all of those steps thereafter. But the thing is that ideas are cheap, right? It's really easy to come up with ideas, but until you take that first step, and it doesn't really matter what it is, it doesn't have to be hiking all these mountains or anything like that, but there's never, I think a lot of us, you could probably relate, we run into a lot of situations in our life when we want to make a choice or a decision or a change, right? And there never really seems to be the right time to do it. And that's probably true. There probably never is going to be that perfect time to do it. And I think taking the first step is absolutely the hardest one. And you have to learn how to do that and to move forward, because you're not going to see this view. You're not going to see that view of descending from your goal or having accomplished your goal if you don't take that first step. So, keep pushing forward and keep doing that. And it helps to, develop that drive once you do it. Once you take that first step, and you can take the subsequent ones thereafter. This is one of my favorite ones. People that know me, have heard me say this a lot. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I'll be a little vulnerable with you guys. This is not something that I was very good at for a long time in my life. Discomfort was not something that I like to challenge myself with or like to pursue. And it was really a challenge to kind of do this stuff that made you uncomfortable. A lot of you have probably heard, a lot about this in one of the big quotes that's out there now. And one of my favorites still is "embrace the suck," right? You're going to run into things every single day that make you uncomfortable. I certainly did. This view, I put this view up here because I'm standing on top of a mountain and there's really not a whole lot to see. And trust me, it was cold. And it took a lot of work to get up there. And there were a lot of times in which I was uncomfortable. One of the ones that sticks out in my mind, for those of you that hike in New Hampshire or from New Hampshire, probably heard of these mountains before, but Mount Liberty and Mount Flume. I distinctly remember this because this was a turning point for me this summer. I started hiking those mountains and I knew it was going to be rainy. I knew it was going to be a little bit cold, but it's easy when you're at the bottom of the mountain to say, it's not that big of a deal. So I started hiking and I got almost 3/4 of the way up the first mountain and I was cold. I was sweating. I was wet. And from that point, I had this decision in my head where I had to decide, with evaluation of the risk, right? Of course, you always have to take that into account, but I had to decide in that moment, am I just uncomfortable and want to turn back around? Or is this something that I really need to push forward in? Is it dangerous? Is this something that I should really do? And that decision of saying, no, like, I'm just uncomfortable and this sucks. And I could turn around and go back and I could be in the warm car here in the next, hour if I really wanted to be. Pushing past those barriers, on the other side of that discomfort is this incredible growth that you don't experience unless you actually push past that stuff. And that was absolutely a turning point for me, was that hike. And, as I changed my layers all the way up the mountain and I was cold and made the decision to continue and summited those two mountains, it was really this pivotal moment for me where I said, wow, like I can push past those limits. I have this, I'm getting more comfortable being uncomfortable. And then the growth that I found on the other side of that was the result of being able to push myself even harder throughout the rest of the summer to accomplish this goal. And I really think it's important to push yourself into that discomfort and see, what you can get on the other end. And it's really, I promise it is this incredible growth that you will not regret if you do. Gratitude. This one is something I admittedly have a hard time with sometimes, but I got the most humbling lesson this summer. These two pictures were actually taken on the top of the same mountain about 10 minutes apart. I have not told this story to more than about 2 or 3 people. But this day I was hiking Jefferson, Adams, and Madison, which are 3 of the biggest mountains in the Presidential Range in New Hampshire. And it was towards the end of the hiking that I was going to do. And I knew that the weather wasn't going to be fantastic. It wasn't going to be anything crazy risky, but it was going to be socked in. And there's some incredible views up in the Presidential Range for those of you that have been up there or seen pictures of it. There's some incredible views up there. And one of the things you have to realize is that, when you're doing a project like this, is that it's not always going to be, the most glorious. But I got a lesson in gratitude that day. I was standing on the top of that mountain and just I was nearing the end of this project and not really knowing where I was headed after that. And I admittedly have a tough time with living in the present sometimes. Those of you that know me are probably laughing right now because it's very true, right? I'm kind of that let's push ahead and what's the next thing type of deal. And this day, I was standing there and I had a snack on top of the mountain, and all of a sudden, just like you see on the right-hand picture there, it started to clear up, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And the next thing I know, probably about 2 minutes after I took that picture, it cleared up into the most incredible view that I've ever seen in my life. And I was struck with this spiritual, incredible moment of how grateful I was to be where I'm at in this current moment. The fact that I had the ability to be up there, both physically, mentally, the time to do it, the support that I had from people, it was huge. And ever since then, I've been a lot better at practicing gratitude. And I think it's really important. And again, another lesson that we can take away. If you practice gratitude every day, it kind of helps you sit in the present and say like, hey, there's some really awesome things that I have going on in my life. And if you don't sit and be grateful for them in the moment, you're going to miss some of the most incredible views that you've ever really had in your life. And I'm so glad that I was humbled by that on this rocky trail with this crazy day that turned into one of the best hikes that I've ever had, for sure. Ooh, this is another tough one for me. It won't always go according to plan. I hate this picture, just for reference. I absolutely hate this picture, and I was debating whether or not I was going to put it up there. But the reason why I did was because this was, again, another important lesson for me. Again, for those of you that know me and those of you that don't, I'm a pretty type A person and plan. And in order to accomplish, something and a goal like this, you have to plan. And it can be tough for us when things don't go to plan, right? When it's not quite exactly the way that you wanted it to be. And then what do you do, right? And so one of the reasons I put this picture, so this is me on the summit of Mount Washington. And the reason I put this picture up there is probably 2 weeks before this picture was taken. I drove from where I was staying at the time. I wasn't in the van. I drove from where the house that I was at, which is about an hour and 45 minutes away from the summit of the base of Mount Washington. And I drove all the way there, and I got into the parking lot, and what had happened was I got out of my car. I put all my equipment on, and I did kind of a self-check that you should do before hiking, and just how am I feeling? How's this going? And I realized that I physically wasn't feeling great. I looked up at the summit of Mount Washington, which was surprisingly clear, which is pretty rare for those of you, again, that live in New England or have heard of it. Usually socked in as it is in this picture. But I did kind of this analysis, and I said, and I kid you not, I walked back and forth in that parking lot for almost 40 minutes trying to figure out if I should go hike that day, looking at it and being like, I don't know. And something said to me, you shouldn't, right? This just isn't the right thing today, the way that you're feeling, whatever it may be, it's not the right thing for you to do. So I reluctantly took my hiking equipment off, got back in the car, drove 20 minutes down the road, and I pulled over and I texted a very good friend of mine, Mary Baxter, who's was integral in this project as well and helping me out. And I said, I feel like I failed. Like I feel like I quit and that I failed from it. And that was a really difficult feeling for me to do, right? I drove all the way there, and like I got right to that point, and I was trying to figure out, how to handle that. And it didn't make sense to me. It was a little bit easier to accept a couple hours later, but it didn't make sense to me until 2 weeks later when I got to the mountain. Felt really great. And I was able to hike both Monroe and Washington in the same hike, and did it in about 6.5 hours, which was pretty good. My speed was up there towards the end. And it was really cool because I had a great validating experience for the choice that I made before, where I was on the top. And for those of you that don't know, Mount Washington is become somewhat of a tourist attraction in some sense. So you can actually drive up the auto road, or you can take a train up. So when you get to the top after you've hiked, you'll see a lot of people at the top that have kind of taken a mode of transportation up that's not hiking. And there's a line for this sign. So the family that was in front of me, they turned around and they asked me if I had hiked. I was like, yeah, absolutely. And they said, how long did it take you? I said, I was about 3 hours, and I got the other mountain right next door. And I was towards the end of my hiking journey, and it was this really validating experience to hear the progress that I had made, because they were surprised by this, and somebody had overheard it, and they go, how long did it take you? And I told them, and I was like, that right there is the validation to say, hey, I made the right decision that day, because I came back, and I came back stronger than I was before to accomplish this massive goal and be up there. And that was a really proud moment and a validating moment, that, things are not always going to go according to plan. And it's tough to accept sometimes, but that's just the way it is. And it's something that's a really important lesson for all of us, and everything that we do. This is probably by far my favorite concept. This isn't just a hiking concept, but I do remember the exact moment when I thought of this. I was hiking the Kinsmans, and I had just gotten done this really kind of lull period where I was like, I just don't want to be in the mountains. And I had hiked a bunch, and then I was probably right around number 20 or something like that. And I was tired. And I was in that point where I was like, man, this is, it's tough. And so I took about a week off, and I woke up the morning that I was going to do these mountains. And I realized that, as the thing that I had to do again was take that first step, and get on the mountain. And once I got on the mountain, I started thinking about this concept of momentum. And I've talked about this with quite a few people in my life now, this concept of momentum. And I think this is really important to understand, because momentum in your life works in both directions. It works in the bad direction, and it works in the good direction. When you start doing something, when you take that first step, you start building that momentum, you keep doing those things. When you don't, and you make the choices to do the things that don't really make you feel that great, or you're not accomplishing the things that you need to do, if you think and you take some inventory with yourself right now and think about times in your life when that's happened, what has happened? What is going on there? Well, if you've done those things that don't make you feel great, and you continue to do them, it's that momentum that keeps going. You keep making those decisions sometimes. But if you're doing it in a good direction, think about when you've done something like that and you've continued to do that, how awesome you feel, right? And it's this concept that is kind of easy to talk about, right? It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's so difficult to put into practice. And I think the biggest thing that you have to understand, and that I gained from it, was when your momentum's in the wrong direction, and we all know when it is. We all know when our personal internal feeling is not great and we're not putting ourselves in the right direction. It's up to you to change that, right? So it's choices. It's choices that we make in order to point our momentum in the right direction and keep it going. And if you've ever had, I'm sure we've all had this in our lives, when you make one decision that feels kind of good, you're like, oh, that's cool. Then this next opportunity pops up, and then the next thing and the next thing, and it starts rolling that way. That's momentum. That's that really cool thing. Momentum is such a powerful tool in your life. It can also be a powerful tool when you're hiking. If you trip, you're going to have that momentum all the way down the mountain. But it's such an awesome piece to use to realize and take inventory in yourself. Hey, is this momentum, is my energy, is the things, the choices that I'm doing going in the right direction? And I had to reroute this so many times in the summer, and I think we all do. And I'm sure that we all can all relate to that. This is absolutely one of my favorites. I'm sure I'm saying that about everyone, but don't be afraid to ask for help. I have certainly struggled with this my entire life, feeling as though sometimes if you ask for help, it makes the accomplishment or whatever you're chasing after less, right? Or it validates the struggle that you might be having. I chose these pictures for a specific reason. Obviously, I have the NAMI New Hampshire team up there, which many of you will recognize those faces standing next to the sign there. And a couple of these other pictures there as well. And my personal favorite is not the one in the top left or when I finished, which was awesome, but it's the one in the bottom left. And I'm probably going to get crap for this later for choosing this picture. But those two people in that picture are my mom and my stepdad. And if you see it through the door there, that's my van. And this was taken the day before I was about to go hiking. And there was a bunch of things that I still needed to do to this van. And I had this date where I was going to go, and it wouldn't be the same if I couldn't get up there and stay, in the mountains and start this momentum of this project. So my mom is sitting there kneeling down, cutting out these templates for window shades that she was helping me make. And my stepdad's over there with a metal grinder, grinding a piece of trim for my door. And it was just this really incredible moment. And I didn't understand how much I needed help with this until the middle towards the end of my project. And I started to realize how much more important it is and how much further you can go when you ask for help, and the people that truly support you are there to do it. And again, this can be with literally anything in your life, any struggle. Reach out to those people, find the right people that will help you through anything that you're going through. And this isn't the only instance that I experienced, but it certainly has made me more prone to ask for help. You can go so much further as a team. Yes, I was the one that hiked the mountains, but I can guarantee you that I would not have taken the first step on the mountains, or have gone any further than that first step if I didn't have this really strong team behind me from both NAMI New Hampshire and my friends and family. And that's extremely, extremely important. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Drop your pride and let it go. And that's, like I said, something that's been tough for me, but a fantastic lesson and one of my favorites for sure. In this one, we're kind of getting towards the end here. I'll keep it a little bit shorter as we come towards the end, but this quote speaks for itself. The person that says they can and the person that says they can't are both correct. I would be lying to you if I told you that in my life, I hadn't said to myself, I can't, many times when I came to this grand challenge. I've said that more times than I'm proud to admit. It was until a couple of years ago when I started kind of changing, my mentality and realizing that where it starts is truthfully in here, right? It's with you. And this applies to absolutely everything, right? No matter what, at the end of the day, no matter how much support you have, no matter how much you've trained or practiced or done anything, right? If you don't believe that whatever challenge it is that you're facing, if you don't believe that you can do it, and you don't tell yourself that you can do it, and you say, I can't, you're absolutely right. It's not that it makes it easy. It's not that it's all of a sudden just this crazy, hey, I'm done. It's cool. It's all set. It's that deciding that you can do it gives you the tools and that capacity to continue stepping forward, right? I cannot name the amount of times when I said to myself, I don't want to do this, but I can do this, right? And so many times when I was, I felt miserable after, tens and tens of miles in the mountains. And I said, that's the only way I can. And one of the things I absolutely love about hiking is that you kind of have one option out, and it's to continue stepping forward and telling yourself that you can do it. Taking breaks along the way is absolutely fine, and it's expected, and I think it's a really good thing. But if you tell yourself that you can't do it, it's exactly what's going to happen. So this picture on the left is from my last hike. Actually, both of these pictures are. This is on the left is the Franconia Ridge Loop. So it's one of National Geographic's top 10 hikes. Actually, in New Hampshire, got the honor of being in that, which is really cool. And decided to end my 48 on that, which was super awesome. And then on the right, as you can see, that's the traditional holding up your 48 sign as you finish your hikes, kind of symbolizing that you're done. And it was absolutely perfect in every way, in the sense that when I got to the top, I couldn't see those views. That was voted National Geographic's top 10, but nonetheless, super special. And, this was kind of the culmination of all of these things to be this really proud moment. And as we worked through, and, this whole summer shared a lot of those different things that, I experienced and was able to help raise money and raise awareness for NAMI New Hampshire throughout the entire process was really, really awesome. So just some project stats for you guys. And overall, took 78 days. It was 84 days or less was the goal. So it took 78 days. It was over 300 miles of hiking, 95,000 feet of elevation gain, which is really cool. And I didn't know this one until somebody pointed it out to me, but it's Mount Everest about 3 times, which was really cool and made me feel really proud. Obviously 48 mountains, and to me, genuinely the most important number. We raised over $6,200 for NAMI New Hampshire, which can seem like a small number, but it was an incredible symbol of a community coming together and people that felt that the cause was really the right one and something that they could get behind, as well as as myself. And I was so honored to have people donate to that and donate to that cause and that money. And I'm sure some of the donors are here watching today. And thank you so much for that, because it's going to help some really awesome causes and to help people a lot. I'd like to leave you with this. My challenge to you is, I think that you should go out every single day and climb a mountain a day. And what I mean by that is not climb a physical mountain every single day. That's not a practical thing. But what I mean by that is figure out what your mountain is that day. And that could be something as simple as getting out of bed. It could be as simple as making that phone call that you don't want to make, or going to the store, or whatever it may be. It can be as small or as big as you want. Find what that mountain is for you and climb it. Push yourself past that discomfort that you feel, that you're like, oh man, I really don't want to do that. Push yourself into that discomfort and find that growth on the other side, because as you do that, that kind of culminates into momentum in this really grand feeling of stacking the wins for yourself. And it's an incredible thing. And I promise that you don't have to go out and hike the New Hampshire 4,000 footers. That's not what you have to do, but you have to realize and that every day we do face these kind of small mountains, and it's something that we can absolutely tackle if we tell ourselves that we can, if we push ourselves past discomfort, and continue to do that. It's not going to be the first time that you do it that you're like, hey, we're here. I made it. We're all still students of this. I am as well. I'm not perfect at any of these things that I have said. We're always still trying to push past it. And, it was an incredible experience. So as you leave, and if you take anything away from this, it's climb a mountain a day. Figure out what your mountain is, and climb a mountain a day, and see how you feel and stack the wins. So thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you to the donors. Thank you to my friends, my family, and thank you so much to the NAMI New Hampshire team for your support this summer, as well as inviting me to speak here today. This has been absolutely awesome, and super excited to do this. I threw a contact info down there. The best way to get in touch with me, if you do want to do that, is probably through Instagram. So that's right there for you. And if you do have questions about anything, whether it's hiking or what we've talked about today, or just have questions about the project or anything like that, I'm absolutely happy to chat with you over there. I'll continue to hopefully put out some cool outdoor stuff, which will be awesome as well. So absolutely, give me a shout over there and make it happen. So thank you guys again so much. And I guess we'll go ahead and open it up for questions.
Okay, we do have some questions. What are your thoughts on the stigma in the flight industry for pilots and mental health struggles?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So I mentioned before, I'm a professional pilot, and I think, it is tough. Pilots are a group of people who are gone often, right? Gone from home often and on the road, which is not a normal thing. And it's extremely unfortunate that there is kind of this stigma. And for those of you that don't know and aren't involved in the aviation industry, there's this stigma that kind of exists through the FAA, which is the governing body of basically the qualifications that we need in order to be pilots. And one of those things is that sometimes if pilots seek help for mental health issues, and it can be very simple things, or it can be, as much as up to medication or anything like that. But anything on that spectrum of what we consider help, right, which I think we can all agree is super necessary in a lot of senses, can actually get you disqualified. And it's really unfortunate. I think, my view on the whole thing is that if you are a pilot that's struggling, you need to seek help. That comes before everything, right? There are absolutely some ways in which you can navigate around the system. I do have some recommendations on that. So if you are, somebody that's struggling with that or something, you feel free to absolutely get in contact with me, and I have some great advice on that as well. But that's the number one thing that you need to be concerned about is what's going on up here, and fixing that, because life's not all about flying. We all love it, but being clear and healthy in your head first is the absolute most important thing. And there are some really good movements out there now that are really trying to push the stigma in aviation away, and kind of get it to be a little bit better and kind of solve some of the issues that we do face with that. And I think it's headed in the right direction. But what we need is people to speak up and be, proponents of it, and people to really, kind of push towards, hey, like, this is an issue. We need to talk about it. The FAA typically has historically been behind on some things, and I think we're behind the power curve on this as well. But it takes good people to keep talking about it. And that's a lot of what we did this summer, and what NAMI New Hampshire continues to do. So, keep talking about it. And if you are struggling, seek help, because at the end of the day, you're the most important thing. It's not flying airplanes. It's about you in your head.
What a great message, Connor. Thank you. So the next question is, what has been the most surprising thing you learned from this experience?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think it's so tough. There's so many. There's a combination of so many different things. It's a great question. The most surprising thing I think for me is how much you have inside that you don't realize, like potential wise, right? And where we think our limits are at, they're not there. They're way further than that. And you know, as people who a lot of us are commonly our own worst enemy, for us to push past that and find that growth and where our limits truly lie, and as you push yourself, you realize how much further your limitations really are. And I think, you know, I was inspired by somebody who pushed their limits, right? And then I got out and tried to do mine. But by no means am I claiming this is the most amazing athletic accomplishment on the face of the planet, because it's far from it. But, you know, and I think that ties into to something I'd like to say, in the sense of everybody's got their own goal and their own limits, but your limits are still further than you think they are. And so continuing to push past that and finding out where they are is this incredible feeling. And if you haven't done it, I absolutely encourage you to. So I think in short, it would be to say, or in summary, it would be how much further your limits are than you truly believe.
Okay. Believe it or not, I'm getting an unstable internet connection message on our last session of the day, but so I'm glad I'm able to just share with you that there are some comments in the chat. And I'll read one because it is from Kristen Welch, our development director, who just had shared that you are forever a member of the NAMI New Hampshire family, Connor. Thank you for your inspirational journey and for raising awareness. It was truly an honor and a privilege to meet you and work on this project. And you know, our NAMI New Hampshire colleagues, and I know that there's a lot of people who are commenting on the chat. Let's see, there is one other question in here. Thank you, Connor, for your amazing contribution to NAMI New Hampshire and to help those struggling with their mental health. It means a lot. Just wondering, what will your next adventure be?
That's a great question. Glad you asked. So I am actually moving to Denver, Colorado in 4 weeks, which is really cool. So more chasing of the outdoors. Yeah. So I got the opportunity to do that. So moving out to Colorado, and I'm just going to explore the endless amounts of outdoor activities that exist out there. So that kind of is my next adventure. You know, I'm looking into some endurance race type of things and what's going to be the next, you know, pushing myself thing, because that's super motivating for me to do. So yeah, absolutely. And that's the next big adventure is chasing Colorado and trying to figure out, you know, what I can get into out there. So there will absolutely be more outdoor stuff, you know, coming that way for me. So I'm super excited about it.
Okay. All right, and I think that is it for our Q&A. Lots of comments in the chat, just really thanking you for your time, thanking you for involving NAMI New Hampshire in this project and its work to decrease the stigma to mental health and make it part of the conversation. And so we really appreciate you taking the time to share this story with us today. And I just think, as we mentioned at the start of the session, Connor, just a really great way for us to end our conference event on a just really positive note. Thank you so much for taking the time to share this with us today. And we look forward to following along on your next adventure in Denver, Colorado, following along on your Instagram. So thank you so much. And
absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys so much, and everybody who came to attend today. I really appreciate it, and hope that, you know, you got something out of it. And like I said, if you do have questions or anything like that, whether it's about, you know, first steps of hiking or anything like that, please absolutely feel free to reach out to me, and you know, keep talking about it, keep talking about mental health and pushing yourself forward, and go get out there, go get outside. It's starting to warm up, which is awesome. So go for it.
All right. So that concludes the NAMI New Hampshire Annual Conference. We really appreciate all of the participation, sharing questions. We thank you for your time, and we look forward to continuing to connect with you, and look forward to your evaluation feedback, as of course it is very helpful for us in planning next year's conference and sessions. So those will be emailed to you shortly, and thank you so much. Have a great weekend.